Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. Turkey says Armenian forces are committing war crimes by targeting civilians in the recent fighting over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said this following his meeting with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. The NATO chief called for a ceasefire as the death toll continues to rise from clashes. In Afghanistan, at least 8 people have been killed in a suicide attack on the governor of Eastern Laghman province. Interior Ministry spokesman Tariq Aryan said the governor and 28 others were injured in the attack. The governor's spokesman said Rahmatullah Yermal was targeted when he was on his way to office. In India, opposition parties have staged protests in several cities demanding justice for a Dalit woman who died after being gang-raped last month. Demonstrators condemned Prime Minister Narendra Modi's policies as crimes against women continue to rise. Earlier, a UN report said sub-caste Hindus are extremely vulnerable and are at a greater risk of gender-based violence in India. The coronavirus cases tally has surpassed 35 million, while the virus has claimed over 1 million lives worldwide. US President Donald Trump remains under observation in a military hospital after making a brief public appearance to greet supporters. Meanwhile, India has registered over 900 deaths and nearly 75,000 cases overnight, taking the infections tally to over 6.6 million. Here in Pakistan, the virus has claimed 4 more lives overnight, taking the death toll to 6,517. Two American and one British-born scientists have won the 2020 Nobel Prize for Medicine. The Nobel Assembly at Sweden's Karolinska Institute said the scientists have been awarded for their work in identifying the hepatitis C virus. The scientists have also won the prize of $1.1 million. Those are the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Turkey says Armenian forces are committing war crimes by targeting civilians in the recent fighting over the disputed Nagorno-Karabakh region. Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said this following his meeting with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. Çavuşoğlu urged all the parties to call on Armenia to withdraw from occupied Azerbaijani territories. The NATO chief called for a ceasefire in Nagorno-Karabakh as the death toll continues to rise from the clashes. Earlier, Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev said Turkey must be involved in the peace process. Azerbaijan has accused Armenia of launching missile attacks on civilians in different cities. Both the sides have claimed hundreds of civilians and the military casualties in 9 days of fighting over the disputed region. In Afghanistan, at least 8 people have been killed in a suicide attack on the governor of Eastern Laghman province. Interior Ministry spokesman Tariq Aryan said the governor and 28 others were injured in the attack. Aryan said 4 guards of the governor and 4 civilians were among those killed. The governor's spokesman said Rahmatullah Yermal was targeted when he was on his way to office. No group has yet claimed the responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, the Taliban says 6 Afghan policemen were killed in a mine explosion in Ner-e-Sarraj district of Helmand province. The group's spokesperson, Qari Ahmadi, said the blast occurred when the Afghan forces attacked the Taliban belt in Mukhtar Kala area. In India, opposition parties have staged protests in different cities demanding justice for a Dalit woman who died after being gang raped last month. Protesters in Ahmedabad, Bhopal and other cities came out on the roads with banners condemning Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The family of the victim say her body was cremated by the police without their consent. Rape and sexual violence have been under the spotlight in India since 2012 when a 23-year-old girl was gang raped. This led to huge protests and changes to the country's rape laws, but there has been no sign of crimes against women abating. The United Nations has expressed concern over the continuing cases of sexual violence against women and girls in India. In a statement, the UN said subcaste Hindus are extremely vulnerable and are at greater risk of gender-based violence in India. It said the recent cases of alleged rape and murder in Hathras and Balrampur are another reminder of the atrocities against women in the country. The UN said it is essential that the BJP government ensures that the perpetrators are brought to justice speedily. It also stressed that families of the subcaste Hindus should also be empowered to seek timely justice, social support, counseling, healthcare, and rehabilitation. At least 2 Indian troops have been killed in an attack in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Officials say 3 others were injured in the Pulwama attack. In a statement, officials said a contingent of Indian paramilitary Central Reserve Police Force came under the attack in Pampore area. They said the injured troops were shifted to a hospital where 2 of them later succumbed to injuries. The officials said the area has been sealed off immediately after the attack and a search operation has been launched. 2 rockets have fallen near Baghdad's heavily fortified green zone, which houses diplomatic missions in Iraq. In a statement, Iraq's armed forces said no one was killed or seriously wounded in the attack. It said one of the 2 Katyusha missiles landed near the Babylon Hotel, which is frequently used for government meetings. Earlier, the Iraqi authorities detained several individuals involved in missile attacks on Baghdad airport and the Green Zone. The US has also threatened to shut down its embassy in Baghdad if the attacks continue. Russia says it is ready to sell its advanced anti-ballistic missile defense system S-400 to Iran. Russian ambassador to Iran, Levan Zagharian, said Moscow can deliver the S-400 system to Tehran once the UN embargo expires. Zagharian said Moscow has sold the S-300 system to Tehran in the past, and now it has no problem with the delivery of its upgraded model. He said Moscow does not fear Washington's threats against the sale of weapons to Iran. He added Moscow can also consider other proposals from Iran on arms purchases. Moscow delivered the S-300 to Tehran after the signing of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal that restricted its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has reaffirmed Ankara's support for the UN-recognized government of the National Accord in Libya. Libyan Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj, along with a high-level delegation, met President Erdogan and other officials in Istanbul. In a statement, the Turkish presidency said Erdogan affirmed Ankara's support to Libya's only legitimate government of Fayez Sarraj. It said foreign ministers, defense ministers and finance ministers of the 2 countries also participated in the meeting. Earlier, President Erdogan publicly announced his opposition to PM Sarraj's resignation as Libya's prime minister. Turkey says it has killed 3 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in northern Syria near its southern border. The defense ministry said the militants were attempting to infiltrate into the area of Turkey's anti-terror operation. It said Ankara will not allow terrorists to disturb peace and security in the Operation Peace Spring zone in northeastern Syria. Since 2016, Turkey has launched a trio of operations across its border into northern Syria. Ankara holds the fighter group responsible for the deaths of some 40,000 people in a 30-year terror campaign. Syria says Russia's continued military presence in the country is important to counter the West's influence in the region. In an interview, President Bashar al-Assad said Moscow's naval and air bases in the region play a key role in battling insurgents. Assad said before Moscow's military intervention in Syria, the country's forces were facing a dangerous situation. He said the armed opposition against his regime was directly backed by Washington and other Western powers. Moscow controls the Hmeimim air base and the Tartus naval facility in Syria, which is Russia's only naval foothold in the Mediterranean. In Sudan, protesters have shut down the seaport terminal and a road connecting Port Sudan city to the capital, Khartoum. Demonstrators are demanding cancellation of the recent Juba peace agreement with the rebel groups. The Port Sudan Workers' Union said the deal represents a foreign agenda and does not address the concerns of the locals. The head of the union threatened the demonstrations will grow if the pact is not cancelled. The Sudanese government signed a peace deal with the Sudan Revolutionary Front, an alliance of the 9 armed groups in the country. African Union Chairperson Musa Faki Mehmet has welcomed the deal among Sudanese factions to end armed conflicts. In Belarus, police have arrested around 317 protesters overnight during the ongoing protests demanding President Alexander Lukashenko's resignation. Interior Ministry spokeswoman Olga Kemedanova defended the detention, saying violation of law and order will not be accepted. Earlier, thousands of people took to the streets in Minsk for the 8th straight weekend. Security forces used a water cannon to disperse the crowds. Protesters also demanded the swift release of the political prisoners. The crowd marched to the beat of drums towards detention centers where detainees were held. Unrest in Belarus was triggered by August's presidential election, believed to have been rigged in favor of Lukashenko. Coronavirus continues to spread across the world, surpassing 35 million cases and more than 1.03 million deaths. More in this report.
Hopes of a global economic revival are dimming as COVID-19 surges in India, Latin America, Indonesia, major countries in the Western Europe and the US. New York City has announced new restrictions after emergence of coronavirus clusters. President Trump still remains under observation in a military hospital after making a brief public appearance to greet supporters.
We're getting great reports from the doctors. This is an incredible hospital, Walter Reed. The work they do is just absolutely amazing, and I want to thank them all, the nurses, the doctors, everybody here. I've also gotten to meet some of the soldiers and the first responders, and what a group.
Many European nations have reimposed lockdowns and other restrictions in the worst affected regions. France, Belgium and the Netherlands have recently recorded highest daily cases. However, New Zealand has announced to lift all coronavirus restrictions, claiming the country has defeated the second wave of the disease.
So, on the basis of the success and effectiveness of our elimination strategy, and on the advice of the Director General of Health, Cabinet has confirmed that Auckland will join the rest of New Zealand at Alert Level 1 from 11:59 p.m. this Wednesday, the 7th of October.
Meanwhile, India is driving COVID-19 numbers in Asia, with the infections tally passing 6.6 million, the second highest in the world. The Indian Health Ministry has registered over 900 deaths and nearly 75,000 cases overnight.
Despite long-standing hostility, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has wished his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump fast and complete recovery from COVID-19. In a briefing, Maduro expressed hope that the U.S. president will become humane and empathetic towards other nations after recovery. Maduro said President Trump wrongfully underestimated the use of the mask and the pandemic in general. Earlier, the Venezuelan president said he, along with his family, will participate in the third phase of the clinical trials of Russian vaccine against the coronavirus. Iran has confirmed 235 new fatalities in a day because of the novel coronavirus, taking the nationwide death toll past 27,000. In a news briefing, spokesperson Seema Sadat said Iran registered a record high 3,902 new cases overnight. The total number of identified cases in Iran has risen to over 475,000. Sadat said out of total infected patients, some 392,000 have been recovered or discharged from the hospitals. Iran is now in the grip of a third major wave of COVID-19 infections. Most of its 32 provinces are classified as red, with the capital experiencing the severest outbreak. In Pakistan, 4 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours, raising the death toll to 6,517. The Health Ministry says 644 more tested positive overnight. It said there are 8,907 total active cases in the country. The minister said out of over 315,000 detected cases, more than 299,000 have recovered so far. He said over 138,000 cases have been detected in Sindh province, while over 99,000 reported in Punjab so far. The National Command and Operations Centre says 88 people across the country are on ventilators. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Pakistan's President Dr. Arif Alvi has arrived in Kuwait to offer condolences over the demise of former Amir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah. In a statement, the President's office said Alvi also met with the new Amir Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah during his visit. The statement said Pakistan and Kuwait are bound by a close fraternal relationship. It added that under the leadership of the late Amir, bilateral cooperation reached a new level. The President also conveyed best wishes to Sheikh Nawaf upon assuming his responsibilities as the new Amir. Meanwhile, Afghan President's spokesperson said Ashraf Ghani will stop in Kuwait to offer his condolences. Ghani earlier left for Doha on Monday to meet with Qatari officials. 2 American and 1 British-born scientists have won the 2020 Nobel Prize for Medicine. The Nobel Committee at Sweden's Karolinska Institute said the scientists have been awarded for their work in identifying the hepatitis C virus. The Nobel Committee said the trio's work helped explain a major source of blood-borne hepatitis that couldn't be explained by the previously discovered hepatitis A and B viruses. The committee said their work, dating back to the 1970s and 80s, has helped save millions of lives. The scientists have also won the prize of $1.1 million. The World Health Organization estimates there are over 70 million cases of hepatitis worldwide and over 400,000 deaths each year. The disease is chronic and a major cause of liver inflammation and cancer. German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas says the COVID-19 pandemic has made the post-Brexit deal more urgent. Maas said failing to reach a deal will be irresponsible. Speaking after a meeting with the EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, Heiko Maas said people on both the sides have enough to shoulder. Maas said it will be irresponsible to burden them in this position with additional problems through a no deal.
There are currently a lot of open questions, and if we want to make it to the finish line, we must make quick progress in all of these open questions. A lot has happened in the past year, and it must be said that maybe more is at stake today than 1 year ago. The coronavirus pandemic made the discussions even more difficult, and I mean in every respect, but it also made an agreement even more urgent.
8 migrants have drowned while 12 others are missing near the Horn of Africa nation of Djibouti. The International Organization for Migration said the smugglers forced the refugees off a boat. In a statement, the IOM said the remaining 14 migrants survived and are receiving medical care. The UN's migrant agency said the migrants were aiming to reach Saudi Arabia. It said all were thought to be Ethiopian and making the passage to Djibouti from Yemen to seek work in the Gulf nations. In China's most beautiful high-speed railway line, bullet trains are running at full capacity to meet the demand during the ongoing National Day holiday travel rush. China's National Day and Mid-Autumn Day overlapped this year, leading to a combined 8-day holiday which started on October the 1st. In this report.
Bullet trains operating along China's high-speed railway spans 852 kilometers in east of the country's Anhui, Yangtze, and Fujian provinces. These trains are running at a designed speed of 300 kilometers per hour, shortening travel time between the two provinces to within 4 hours. More people are traveling on the route to enjoy the pleasant autumn weather by visiting picturesque landscapes and ancient towns. China's Railway Corporation said a total of 11.4 million passenger trips were made on Saturday alone. By 2019, China had the world's largest high-speed railway network, with a length totaling over 35,000 kilometers. Over 2,800 pairs of bullet trains run daily, connecting over 550 cities in China and covering 33 of the country's 34 provinces. The Beijing-Shanghai high-speed train links the two mega-cities, located 1,318 kilometers apart, and just for 4.5 hours.
U.S. stocks are trading higher after hopes of a new fiscal stimulus bill lifted sentiment. Investors also cheered news regarding improvement in President Donald Trump's health. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is trading higher by over 1%, while the S&P 500 is up by about 1.5%. The Nasdaq Composite Index is also trading higher by about over 1%. Meanwhile, oil prices rose after doctors said the U.S. president could be discharged from the hospital as soon as Monday. Oil prices were also affected by an escalating workers' strike in Norway. European stocks have advanced as jittery global markets calmed down by reports of President Trump's improving health from COVID-19. The pan-European stock 600 has gained over 0.5%, with oil and gas stocks, banks and autos all adding over 1.5%. All sectors and major bourses are in positive territory. London's FTSE 100 and Frankfurt's DAX has risen over 0.5%. The CAC 40 in Paris and Italy's FTSE MIB has also advanced close to 1%. Earlier Asian markets traded higher as well. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Everton have signed defender Ben Godfrey from Championship side Norwich City on a 5-year contract. British media reports suggest the 22-year-old cost Carlo Ancelotti's side around $32 million. He's Everton's 5th signing of the summer after two midfielders, a playmaker and a left-back joined the squad. Everton are the early Premier League leaders after winning their opening 4 matches. However, manager Ancelotti wanted to increase his options in defence after injuries to Mason Holgate and Gerard Braithwaite. Godfrey made 30 top-flight appearances last season as the Canaries were relegated back to the Championship. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now with the latest updates. You can follow us on social media at Indus.News.